Hi, welcome to the Happiest Self. This is Cynthia Belmer. Today's guest is Geshe Phende. He's been a monk since he was 12 years old when he joined the Drepung Loseling Monastery in India. Now he resides in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's part of the monastery here as well. He's also the author of Reducing Suffering, which you can find on Amazon.com. Today we're going to be talking about self-compassion and how to cultivate kindness to yourself and love yourself regardless of what's going on around you. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us, Geshla.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us a little bit about where do you think this passion for competition and for winning come from?
I think, of course, I'm not sure, but I think the society in here, which when the children grow up, so everything's a very challenge. So there are lots of pressure behind the family or whatever, in the school and everywhere, you have very challenge. So, and always they keep very high expectation. So they keep very high expectation, lots of challenge, and then eventually if they not achieve there, then there's themselves saying they are loser or they're weaker, and that's why I think they look themselves as something wrong there.
Yeah.
I'm not enough person. So that's kind of, you not achieve what you, your expectation. I think that's why maybe it's causing themselves as a loser. So that's why maybe that it's create anger and hate toward oneself.
Mm.
I think that one of the causes is that, and of course, it's what you call it's this modern sort of like a modern society. It's so much materialistic, and there are lots of challenge, and you have to be, go with your material world. So you have to be very fast. You have to go with them, and it makes you very short temper. So the short tempers, it's always very easily. Everything has to be fast, fixed, and go. That kind of, the community or that kind of environment. You grow up. So it's everything's fast, it's nice, but at the same time, it creates, for the mental level, it creates impatience and a very short temper. And I have to be fast, have to be do. Whatever I think have to be, I achieve that. So I think that kind of, society when you grow up, I think that's also creates, self-hate when you not reach that level, or when you're not enough, when you see yourself is not enough, this or that, then it's, I think, makes themselves something not enough or loser or something. That's why I think it's self-hate. I think, but I'm not sure exactly what the causes is. That's the best thing is the people who hate themselves. We need to ask, why do you hate yourself? And some people, I have some number of those people. Some people, they say the condition was when they grow up, their parents always saying, oh, you don't know anything, you are a loser or something. So I think they told me like that, and that's why when they grow up themselves, they themselves seeing they're loser, they're nothing, they're not enough person or something. And people say that and they themselves believe that. And that's why I think they hate themselves. But the real causes is maybe each individual might have different types of causes to hate themselves. But I think one of the causes is clear. It's in a high expectation. So what is your reality? What is your reality? You are not compared with your reality on how much you can do. Your expectation and your reality has huge big gap. You always expect, I should go this way, I should achieve this way. Maybe your own reality, you don't have that much, capable to achieve that, but you don't understand things, one's own, like a potential or one's own capacity, or without that, you're just guessing or you just expected some kind of things, and you're not going to achieve that, and that's why you think you are a loser. That's why I think it's causing them self-hate.
it's very hard for people from different cultures to set healthy boundaries with parents. So, for example, if parents get involved in their business, if they say no to the parents get angry, there's no respect, there's all sorts of stuff. And then at the same time, the person gets angrier and angrier and angrier. Let's say she's a mother or a father, doesn't matter. They get angrier and angrier with the parents because the parents, they're not respecting the personal life. So there's this whole explosion that happened because the person initially didn't know how to set loving boundaries with the parents, and the parents didn't know how to respect those boundaries as well. What is self-compassion? How can we create compassion for the parent? It could be a parent, it could be in-laws, it could be a friend. This is just like a random example that I wanted to share with you.
Okay, now first, when we talk about the self-compassion, and that doesn't mean selfish. So it's a huge big difference between self-compassion and the selfish. The selfish is the negative. It's wrong, mistaken, wrong consciousness. It can create a self-problem. It can create problem toward others. The self-compassion is completely different. But many people have something like a confused. So when they talk about self-compassion, many people picking up, self-compassion, which means for their understanding of self-compassion, selfish, taking care of self, which means the selfish.
Yeah.
So I think that self-compassion or the selfish, both of those consciousness, those minds seeking, taking care of self, selfish also looking self-benefit, taking care of the self. Mm-hmm. Self-compassion also looking self-benefit and how to take care of the self. But the difference between selfish is based on ignorance. So this mind is based on ignorance. That's why they don't know how to really take care of the self. They're seeking themselves to help, to fix the problem, but they don't know how to do that. So because of this mind is based on ignorance, instead of benefit, it's creating more other problems. The self-compassion is the very smart, it's the valid cognition, it's the very smart, based on the reason, based on the logic. It's not just based on ignorance. So huge difference between these two minds. So self-compassion first, in order to do self-compassion, meditation, first, very important, the self should understand the suffering you're experiencing. Who's that causing that suffering to you? Not only condition, it means fundamental causes of suffering which you're experiencing right now. Who causing that? What are the fundamental causes of suffering? So, like, for instance, my parents did something bad things, or my friends did something this, whatever you use, you're thinking, I suffer because of my parents. Yeah. I suffer because of my families, my friends. That's they're always seeing. But where you're seeing these causes are just circumstances. These are not the really fundamental causes. These are the condition. The main causes of the self-depression or the inner pains and suffering you're experiencing, it comes from one's own mind. So the one's own mind, when you say it hurts me, it harms me. So it hurts me, harms me means where it harms to one's own feeling. When you feel suffering, then you say it harms me. So it's mainly the harm to one's own mind. So who harms toward one's own mind? Who can able to harm your mind? Only your mind is the only can able to harm you, nobody. Because first, the consciousness, the mind when we talk about, when you say, I'm happy, I'm suffering, that moment you should think, where are you really talking about? When you say, I'm suffering, which means what? I'm happy means what? Where are you looking? it's actually its individual's mental experience. When your mind is experienced full of joy, full of pleasure, that means you are happy, you enjoy it. Your mind is experiencing depressed or fear, frustration, or something, pain, unpleasure, then you say, I am suffering. So it's not about the physical, what kind of life you live. It's not about what you eat. It's not about what you wear, the fancy clothes. It's the mainly each individual's mental, what you experience, that's the reality for you. So when you say, oh, I'm very depressed, I'm very stressed, which means your mind, right? Your mind they're talking about. So who can able to, harms your mind? Mind or consciousness? What's that really means?
Yeah.
Consciousness or the mind, which means, that's the we talking about. The mind, which means invisible. It's the formless, called luminous. So the entity of the mind is the luminous. What's the mind functioning? What's the consciousness functioning? It's functioning, experiencing, or knowing. So merely luminous and knowing or experience is the definition of mind. That's called the mind or consciousness. So as long as
just a question, just to be clear for the audience, you're not talking about the brain. The brain is different than the mind.
Completely
yes,
true.
okay. I just wanted to get that clear for people.
Yes.
Okay.
Brain is sort of part of the meat. That's the sort. It can, the nerves can, the mind can travel through the nerves, but that doesn't mean the nerves are the mind. That doesn't mean the brains are the mind. The mind is the luminous, it's the feeling, it's the, it's called consciousness, which experiencing. So as long as the consciousness is formless, that means it's invisible. So how much strong fire, you can't burn the mind. You can't, burn your consciousness. How much sharp sword you use, you can't cut the mind because they don't have form. So if this is the consciousness who don't have form, then external material, external solid form can't directly harm to your mind because mind don't have the form, right?
Yeah.
So who can able to harm to mind? Only the mind and consciousness can harm to the mind. So others' mind, can they harm our consciousness directly? Of course not. Their mind is in their body. Your mind is in your body. So their mind can travel into your body. So it's only the staying in your body is your consciousness. So because of that mind, why it hurts, why it's harmed, why they're experiencing depressed, why it's experiencing fear, is who causing that? Only one's own mind. When you angry, when you attach, when you're jealous, some kind of negative emotions, when they arises, these negative emotions disturbs your mind. It is the negative emotions who brings fear, worry, depressions. If your mind is nothing anger at all, if you're never angry at all, whatever people say, whatever they do, it never affects you. You can still remain calm. So external things, when the things change, internal in your mind, when this anger emotion arises, that's why it creates its inner pains and suffering we're experiencing. So that's why the fundamental causes of suffering today we're experiencing, it comes from one's own negative thoughts, emotions. So now self-compassion, which means taking care of self. How should taking care of self? How should we get rid of our suffering? It's this, through this reason, the suffering comes from one's own negative emotion. So if you don't want to experience suffering, then you have to reduce your negative emotion. You have to stay away with your negative mind. You have to eliminate those negative emotions. So this is one of the best way to take care of oneself. So that's what the self-compassion, the meditation we talk about, is not about, oh, you should fight to other people, you should be strong to other people. That's selfish. Self-compassion, which means if you really want to live happy peace, you should get rid of your negative emotion. You should reduce your negative emotion. At the same time, you should change your bad behavior, the bad habits who creates by negative emotion. Those bad actions you acted, that's why it causes to destroy your friendship, to destroy your families, everything. So a simple thing is, you see somebody say bad things or whatever interrupt to you, you feel angry. When you feel angry, what you're doing, it makes you really, really unhappy. It's really internal, really, really, it destroys your peace of mind. There's no peace at all. And that's come from your anger. And first the anger, when it comes up, is destroy your peace. Then it's affect your physical. It's affect your speech. Your physical actions turn into violent. Your speech out of anger, everything's turned into violent, negative. That's why you act negative. And the result is create more problem toward oneself, toward other people. So all those bad behavior, bad action, we act it because of the negative minds. So when your negative emotion arises, your decision always comes negative, mistake. So negative mind, which means another, from the philosophy term, it's called wrong consciousness, mistaken consciousness. So when those wrong consciousness arise, every decision comes out of your wrong consciousness become wrong decision. That's why your actions become wrong. That's why it's ended up in the wrong place, which called the trouble, problems. So all this come from one's own negative emotion. So self-compassion, which means understanding those step by step, and in order to live happy means to try to avoid those bad action, bad speech, try to avoid those negative mind who creates those bad actions and bad speech. That kind of desire, that kind of wishes, seeking oneself free from one's own negative emotions, one's own negative behaviors and actions, that wish is called real self-compassion.
When you talk about eliminating negative emotions, you're not talking about suppressing the emotions, right?
Yeah, you can first suppress, then slowly reduce it, because you can't stop and just immediately like that.
Yes.
It can take a time. So self-compassion meditation is not able to stop your negative emotion. It's not able to stop your anger. But the self-compassion meditation gives you some kind of self-protection because you dislike your own negative emotion. You dislike your own bad action. You are aware your action, your feeling. So you have a desire to stay away from those negative emotions. So you have a desire to stay away from those negative behavior. Wish to free from them doesn't mean it can stop that. Okay. But it can help you to stay away, to stay distant. Today, we welcoming them. So the negative emotions comes, we never try, we never feel dislike, we welcome them. So we welcoming, because of we welcoming them, negative emotions are become very strong, involved. They dominate us. Then many people, they're drunk by those negative emotions. So because they're welcoming them. So self-compassion, it can't antidote directly those negative emotions, but it helps. They're not welcoming them. So you stay away with them, which means, like for instance, when you wear the hat, you are under the hat. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But you can hold the hat in your hand. Both times, either you wear, either you hold, you have a hat. But the different one is you're under the hat. But one is you have, but he can't control you. You know, you stay away with them. You stay distant with them. So that's the two difference. The self-compassion, the meditation, helps you, not welcoming them. to you be sensitive, you be aware when this emotion arises. Say, oh, this is not good. You stay away with them. But the real who can get rid of this is compassion to all beings, love to all beings. So when you try to generate love and compassion to all other beings, those love and compassion can antidote to your anger, hatred toward other people. But first, self-compassion, then you have to go next step, compassion to others.
So basically you're talking about, when you gave the example of the hat, you're talking about becoming an observer, like you're aware that the emotion is there, but you don't have to believe it, you don't have to react on it.
Yeah, you don't need to, you are not welcome them.
Yes.
You are not welcoming them. You know there, but you don't like them in there. So you don't like having them. So it's something gives you some kind of self-reflection. Even you know you have that, but it's not take over you. So that's the difference.
So then it's not taking control over you.
Yes. Yes.
So you were talking that one way to reduce that is to basically separate ourselves somewhat from the emotion instead of like letting it take control over us. So what about like in the situation that I gave you earlier? If, for example, the parent is getting involved and the mother or the father, they're angry and they want to put a limit to that, how can we develop compassion to the parent instead of reacting with so much anger towards them?
So that's why, as first, if you know about that, then the first thing is understanding the disadvantages of one's own anger, hatred, one's own negative emotions. So living under the influence of those negative emotions, of course, it can disturb your mind. It can also create problem toward others. So the first, make sure do you really understand those negative emotions are one of the fundamental causes. So that's why first it's important to understanding the disadvantages of anger, hatreds, those greeds and jealousy and all those negative emotions. So when you're knowing more about this, it helps you to dislike to one's own negative emotions. So that's the first important. Then when you really dislike your negative emotion, when you really wish to stay away from your negative emotions, then second thing is, of course there is a situation, so wherever you go, it is saying, from the Buddhist term, we are in samsara.
Yeah.
Samsara is the surfing of cycle existence. You are not living in heaven. So if you're living in a heaven, then you can you can expect everybody should be listening, everybody should be nice, everybody should be, whatever you have expectation, you can go there. So you have to understand in the reality, you are in samsara, you are in suffering, suffering of cycle existence. So if you're living in that kind of situation, always there is a trouble. So like it is saying like a worm, if you're born in the mud, you always stuck mud in your body. But stuck mud into your body, nothing you are complaining because that's the way you're born in.
Yeah.
You will go to stuck there.
Yeah.
So first understanding the reality that where you are living with these the people, everybody has anger, everybody has this kind of wrong consciousness, mistake. That's the way we live there. So when the decisions comes, of course, where you see, where other people see is completely two different planets. So we should understanding whatever I see doesn't mean these people will see that way. Because it's not about what is the truth there, outside there. It's about what you see, this is the reality for you. So even if you see as a good person, for you, this guy is good. If you see him as a bad person, for you, he's bad. So what you see is where you look. You're looking out of anger, you're looking out of love to this guy. So when you look out of anger, you're wearing these anger glasses. Then you see all those horrible things. If you're looking out of love, you're wearing these positive glasses, you see something. That's the way your reality. So we should understanding first where you see in the situation, where the other people see in the situation, two different situations. That's understanding. Then the third, the fundamental problem is comes from one's own negative emotion. That's the way when you see people behave, you're angry, that's why it's disturbing you. So if you don't have any anger, whatever they're doing is not that much disturb you. That's very clear. So when you know these things, then you first really emphasize to how to get rid of one's own emotion. So when you are engaged with a difficult situation, something very bad things, before you fix it, first make sure, you're aware. Are you angry? Are you hate? Or what emotion arising? Your decisions comes out of what kind of emotion arising. So before you fix there, outside there, first fix your own mind, make sure. Then external thing to fix, as long as if you don't have negative minded, then external, when you choose the method to fix, your mind have seen much bigger image. You can see more different direction. If you anger and hatred, your mind's become very narrow-minded. Only one or two seeing that. You don't have many other choice. So you only see the completely negative bad. So your decision come very fast because anger is short temper and anger never look the reason. It's just whatever there comes in front of you, you decide it. So out of anger, when you decide, decisions comes huge big mistake. You can fix the problem at that moment, that's short-tempered. But the long term, it always is behind in your mind. You feel regrets, you feel guilties, you feel upsets, you feel fear. All those experiences remains year by year. Even your family or parents or your friends out of your decision when they go away, these situations can stay in your brains all your life. So it will destroy your whole life, feel guilty. So that pain you feel and you're experiencing because the decisions come from that short temper. So that's why the point is, first, make sure one's own mind. Then once your mind is calmed down, then your decision depend on situation. There's no one decision. The right side or wrong side, they depend on the situation. Some decisions have to be very strong, some decisions have to be very light. That depend on situation. Which kind of methods you used depend on situation. Sometimes wrathful, sometimes peaceful. So, but all this wrathful or peaceful, whatever you use the method, make sure your mind is first fully calmed down. So when your mind is calmed down, you use the action very skilled, which action is most suitable. So that's why it's first, as a self-compassion meditator, first make sure you are not drunk by those emotions first before your decision. Then decision depend on situation. Sometimes if you're not smart enough, then your decisions come to mistake. So that's why you have to wait and you have to talk with other people which decision is much better for the long-term benefit. So as long as when your mind is calmed down, you have a patient tolerance, you can wait, you can see it. If your mind is full of negative, then there's no patience.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about in the beginning of the session, I was mentioning how you were surprised by people talking about self-hatred here, and you have never heard of that before. So what was it like for you? What was your life like before you came to the States that made you feel surprised about hearing about this notion, like, I hate myself, I don't like myself? So what is different? Like, I'm just trying to understand better. What is the difference in culture, or what is it that you do differently so that we can learn from you to do it as well?
Of course, as a monk, being a monk very, very young age, so you grow up in our culture, whatever reason, or never hear about self-hate, or never think about self-hate. I don't know why is it, maybe our culture or something never hear about these things. But maybe, they don't have that much sort of high expectation. And maybe we don't have that much, huge, big pressures. And you don't have maybe that much like a materialistic, so much like what you call the challenge, between him or her or this or that, maybe not that much competition, right? So like maybe these are the environment or not sure. And second thing is, as of course at the monastery, the teachers always, one of the best happiness is the freedom of one's own negative emotion.
Yeah.
That's called the nirvana. The cessation of negative emotions is one of the highest happiness. So the cessation of negative emotions is one of the highest happiness, which means in order to live happily, which means the person who's seeking to achieve that kind of. But here, in order to live happy, which means have a nice job, maybe have a nice car or fancy dress or fancy house, okay, interpret and about the happiness, which means maybe material happiness, every these things. Maybe that's, if you have that, you are happy. If you don't have that, you are not happy. Maybe for their image, seeing of happiness is something like that. So maybe that can also causes too much challenge and competitions. But then over there, happiness means, which means one's own freedom of anger. If you're free from anger, you will be happy. You achieve achievement, your mind. So it's looking at themselves, internal happiness. Maybe that kind of influence or whatever reason are different.
So there's a different definition for happiness.
Yes.
Different.
Yes.
So over here, definition is about success, accumulating wealth, being famous, and all of that. Over there, it's about letting go of negative emotions.
Yes.
The more you have that, the more. Okay.
Yes.
So, is it possible for us to be happy right now?
Of course. Everybody should be. They're suffering. Many people think I'm suffering because of my job, because of these are just a condition. You can see, doesn't mean you are the one of the richest person, doesn't mean you will be happy. Doesn't mean you are the one of the poorest person, you will be suffering. That doesn't mean that. Happiness and suffering is not about what kind of life you live. It's not about the external material life, the job. It's the simple. So I mentioned earlier, when you say, I'm happy, what's that really mean? Your mind is full of joy. That's why so you are happy. If your mind is full of depressed, fear, and so I'm not happy. So the mental peace and happiness is everybody, monk or the lay communities, and every educated or uneducated, everybody has completely same potential to live happy in peace. So its simple thing is unhappy because of those negative mind, the destruction thoughts. So everybody can reduce their destruction thoughts. In order to reduce one's own destruction thoughts or negative emotion, you now not rely on money, you are not rely on job, you are not rely on family. Everybody has completely same potential. So for that reason, everybody can possible to live one of the happiest person if they know where they need to focus. So that's the problem they have.
I also love
one thing I added. Yeah. So people feel, self-hatred or self-angry from the Buddhist perspective. I'm talking about. We talking about the what is the reality, how the things exist. It's how the things exist means there's nothing any exists by themselves. Everything exists dependent origination, right?
Yeah.
None of things exist independently, inherently. So it's the condition arises, then you label it. You label this or that or this or that. So it's not about something from themselves, from there. It's mental project. Everything's a projection. But But the point is, what I'm saying is, when you label self, where you labeling? So today, people, when they see my face, they say, oh, I saw this Geshe.
Yeah.
So they label that moment, I'm on my face. They label on my face. That's why when they saw my face, they said, I saw him. But this face is not a me, right? Simple. But when they saw my face, they said, I saw him. So that moment, we label self into the face, on the face. Then when you say your mind is experienced depressed, you say, I'm depressed. So when you talk about the depressed, I'm depressed, that moment you label or you imputed yourself on your feeling. So when you feel depressed, that's why you say you're depressed. You self-label on your feeling. So it can label everywhere. So some people say, oh, he's very tall. So that means they label on his physical, body, the tall body. So everything you labeling. So what you should do is, when you feel hate oneself, that moment you labeling yourself into something negative. You are loser or whatever something. You label yourself into negative objects. So that's why you see yourself as loser. That's why you feel you're angry. So you need to change that moment. Where should I label myself? You should label yourself into your fundamental desire, your innate natural desire, the natural heart by birth you have is wish to live happy, wish to live peace and happiness, and don't want suffering. That desire is human nature, right? We have that wishes by birth, and it will go till death. It remains in our life from birth to death. Wherever we go, we can change our physical lifestyle, everything, but the wish to live happy in peace never change. That's our fundamental desire. So from that perspective, that desire is very innocent, very pure, just wants to live happy, peace, and don't want suffering. It's very pure, innocent desire that you are. So for that desire, there's nothing to complain. There's nothing to feel hate. It's a very beautiful, innocent desire, just wish to live happy. Who are you? Means I'm the person every day, every moment, seeking peace and happiness. I'm the person never ever wants suffering. That's me. So you should label on your own fundamental desire. From that point, there's nothing to reason to hate themselves. There's nothing to reason to complain themselves. It's very pure. So that's why you have a mistake is where you label it. The object where you use is something mistake. So if you label into the negative objects, then you feel angry, you feel hate. So when you see something like that, you should change it. You should change yourself to label in, I am the person always wants to live happy peace. There's nothing wrong, anything on that way from that desire. It's very innocent. Be proud of having that very innocent, pure desire. That's you are. That's the we are. So when you always think about that, I think that will little bit helps. I think it might be helps you to reduce your self-hate.
Yeah.
I think that's.
So Geshla, you do meditation at the Drepung Loseling every week in Atlanta. Which day is that?
A specific Sunday morning, 11 to 12. We're doing sometime a basic meditation. Most of the time the meditation is compassion. Self-compassion, compassion to others. And the compassion do have different levels of compassion meditation. So most of the weekend, the Sunday, we're doing the different types of compassion meditations. And that's from 11 to 12. So maybe half an hour just give the idea about the compassion, how should meditate, and maybe 30 minutes guide the meditation.
And that is also available online on live stream?
Yes. When you look in our website, there under the corner they have something live stream.
Yeah, live stream. Yeah. Or if they go on live stream, if you go on live stream and look up Drepung Loseling, then they can find you. You also teach any other classes during the week?
Yeah. Every Tuesday evening we have 7:30 to 8:30, 7:30 to 9 o'clock. We have a variety topic. The class, that time's more teaching and philosophy.
Yeah.
That's a variety topic, depend on each topic. But these are available in also same in live stream.
Okay, great.
And also Monday or Tuesday.
Thursday. There's Thursday.
There's a CBCD compassion training, which really nice the meditation, which without touch into any faith.
So it's for everyone.
Yes, everyone can do that. CBCT called Cognitive Based on Compassion Training. So it's a very logical, very powerful meditation. So that's also very good.
Okay, great. And then you also wrote the book, I already mentioned that before, Reducing Suffering. People can buy it on Amazon, and it's based on Buddhist philosophy and psychology, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Geshla, for being here with us. And you're a very special person to me. I didn't mention that earlier, but ever since I met you, every time I meet you, every time I have a session with you, something shifts in my life. So I really hope that this session also helped a lot of people. And I look forward to having you here again. Thank you so much.